Kia ora, Lara here, and I am working on Scraptember Day 16, where it's all about the enamel dots, the nouveau, and the sequins. I'm going to use a few different things to sort of emulate some of these, and I will use most of them. So I'm just matting my photo here. Now the photo is kind of central to the dots and things that I'm going to use as part of this. So you can see sort of the water moving down towards the base of the photo. So I'm going to use this sort of flow and this movement of the water to help sort of direct where I'm going to put this nouveau at, well, not the nouveau because I don't actually have any. I'm going to use some of some liquid pearls and a little bit of stickles. So I'm going to pull that in, as well as some sequins and some enamel dots too. So I'm just playing around with some of the pattern papers that I'd pulled out here that I thought would work with the colours that I was wanting to create with. So I'm keeping this the White Daisy cardstock background because I'm going to do sort of some mixed media and embellishing here. So you can see this sort of water or the splash kind of stencil that I've selected. It's one of the ones that Close to My Heart recently has brought out in their new annual book. I'm enjoying using these. There's quite a few different variations of them, and I'm just playing with some of these sort of bluey toned distress oxides as I sort of just sort of rub these into the shapes. Now I'm not being super particular with this. Doesn't work very well if you're using mixed media anyway, but I'm just sort of moving this stencil around a little bit, and I didn't really want to tape it down because it's not a precise science that I'm working on. You could, if you were wanting to make it more particular where you were placing things. You can see how I've pulled these two different colours. I'm also going to pull out the sapphire in here as well, just because I felt it just needed another shade of the blue, and the sapphire is a perfect match for that sort of striped patterned paper background that I had picked in there as well. And I've wondered about doing a little bit coming out the top as well, sort of as to where the water was coming from, but the photo didn't quite lend itself to that way of thinking. So I've got these gorgeous sort of colours coming out as if the water's continuing down out of the photograph. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the Narnia movie where they're on the ship and they're looking at the painting and all of a sudden the water comes out of the painting. So just sort of playing around with that concept and idea. And after doing this, I thought, actually, I feel like this page is going to need a bit of a border. And so I start just sort of thinking of a thinnish border, and then I decide to increase the size of that border to, I think, a full inch in the end around, so it'll leave sort of ½ inch all the way around. I think, if my maths is right, it might not be. Never mind. You'll see how it comes out in the end. So I have got this gorgeous paper here, sort of left over from a collection that I absolutely loved, that was designed by one of the Close to My Heart makers in conjunction with the designers that work for Close to My Heart. And I'm just going to pull this in as my background paper. I just thought it tied in nicely with the tones of the water that was coming out from the photograph. So just playing around with that and happy with how that's shaping up so far. So just looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I sort of know what I'm going to be putting into the water splashes. It feels like it needs a little bit more definition around the edge from where the White Daisy cardstock meets that patterned paper. So I'm just using the paper piercer here, and I'm going to pierce holes all the way around where the White Daisy sort of almost attaches to the patterned paper background, and I'm going to add a stitched kind of border around here as well. So just finishing off that paper piercing off camera, and I have gone ahead and added some stitching. So I've kept it those blue tones that I'm using with the rest of it, and now I've just grabbed out some of these sequins here, and I'm just going to choose a few different sequins at different points, and just using the liquid glass to attach them here within those splashes on this page. So this part of the process does take a while sort of to build this up, to add in some of these different textural elements, and you can see me sort of trying to select some of the sequins there, the colorways that I would think worked. and then I decide to rough up the borders while I sort of contemplate where I'm going to place these next bits. And I wanted to make sure that when I was doing this roughing up that it's not going, so I'm not going to be putting pieces, there's going to be a gap from the bottom there where I've lifted it up a little bit, but I didn't need to worry about that too much. So just carrying on placing some of the different sequins. Now this sequins collection I think came out when Bluebell was the colour of the year for Close to My Heart, and I have loved these blues and whites and sort of the iridescent nature of some of them on over time and on quite a few different layouts and things actually. So these are they're not, I don't think they're available anymore, but they are a nice sort of set of sequins that have got some gorgeous tones and things in there. So now it's time to sort of bring out some of these other colours. I went into my collection and I picked out some different liquid glass colours that tied in really nicely. So I'm just sort of adding dots of these around and trying not to touch where I have already done some of those dots. At the very end of the video you'll sort of be able to see some close-ups of what this sort of looks like and looking at it across it, so you can see the true depth and dimension of these gorgeous little dots. I really like how the liquid pearls do emulate that enamel dot type thing, but with that nice shine. So I've used these in place of Nouveau, and I've now sort of pulled in some stickles as well. So this is sort of, can't remember the colour, but it's a nice blue stickle, so it's kind of got that glittery look in it rather than that pearly look that the liquid pearls seem to have. And I also use I think some white liquid pearls and the more white stickles as well onto this sort of splashing of water coming out from the photograph at the bottom. Looking at it at the moment, and at this point when I was putting this page together, I was like, where am I gonna add the title, and where do I add some journaling to sort of keep the flow and design of this page coming out with these gorgeous dots and things down the bottom. So now I turn it over to the side thinking, yep, I'm probably going to have to pop my title in here. It seems to be the best spot for it. And I've just grabbed the wood veneer alpha shapes, and I am going to put my title along the side here. So they're sort of sticking with those nature colours that the rest of the layout's got, and not too dominating. A black would have taken over on this page, just with the soft, subtle dots and flow of that water there. So I've called it Flow, and I play around with a few different positions for it, but I do decide to stick it along the side there, but pulling it down as close as I can to where that water is coming out from below the photograph. So just going to use the liquid glass to adhere each of these down. I was thinking as I did this that it would have been quite handy to have my Xyron sticker maker, just because it seems to put the letters through and then makes them adhesive quite nicely and simply, and less mess with the glue, and I don't run the risk of forgetting to put the lid back on. But you'll see that I did take that away, and I'm sort of putting that on off camera. So now it's time to add a little bit of journaling. I'm just going to tuck a little bit in down here in this sort of wee gap at the base of the photo as well. So I'm sort of trying to keep all of the elements together on the page, so sort of that title and that flowing water coming out, as well as that journaling just sort of tucking in there as well. I hope you've enjoyed seeing this process to come together. Check out the Scraptember playlist, there's some close-ups of those gorgeous wee dots. Check the Scraptember playlist down below. If you've enjoyed this, I hope you'll subscribe so that you can see more, and I just really appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and leave any comments if you so wish. Again, thanks for watching.